There have been many instances throughout the years when not only was it very much alive, but it possessed some fans to do terrifying things. Hell, even years after the business was exposed, many wrestlers found themselves in situations that scared the shit out of them. Far more scary than what you or I have to deal with, most certainly. The only thing we have to fear is being forced to sit through an Alicia Fox match. But there's been many a time a wrestler was put in a less than enviable spot. I'm Simon from What Culture, and this is 13 wrestlers in situations that scared the out of them. Number 13, when Ric Flair caused a riot. Back in the day, wrestling was real. Every match was presented and digested as a shoot. This also meant some fans were nuts. In the mid-80s, Ric Flair was the NWA. So much more than just being the champion, he was the face of the promotion, traveling the world over to defend his gold. Unfortunately, the most passionate pro wrestling supporters were often found overseas, which also meant that they paid and expected their hometown heroes to win. If they didn't, well, they'll just tear down an entire arena. Okay, this is exactly what happened when the Nature Boy took on local man Jack Veneno in the Dominican Republic. 30,000 people turned up just to watch their hero train. 30,000! Him losing would be the equivalent of a national tragedy, or when Alicia Fox is booked to win a match. Realizing the sensitivity of the situation, a finish was put in place where the bell was rung as Flair passed out from a sleeper. It was impossible to tell who actually won, and Flair darted out the building quicker than Nathan Jones's WWE career. Good thing he did too. The fans rioted by throwing chairs and fighting military police. Crazy. Number 12. John Cena crosses Vince McMahon. The ending to the 2005 Royal Rumble is incredible. When John Cena and Batista went over the top rope and hit the outside at exactly the same time, fans the world over stood and applauded the execution. Only the whole thing was an accident. Still a rookie, all things considered, Cena pulled out the animal by mistake, ruining the planned finish to the match. As if that wasn't bad enough, the situation was about to get a whole lot worse. Infuriated by what he'd seen, Vince McMahon came storming down the aisle to sort things out, and to chastise all involved. He then proceeded to slide into the ring, and he just sat there, like a child who had just been told by their parents that the car was being turned around, and that there'd be no ice cream. What had actually happened is McMahon had somehow pulled both quad muscles, leaving him unable to stand. Can you imagine how terrified Cena must have been going backstage? Vince's wrath must have been horrendous. Number 11. The Tribute to the Troop Show. WWE's yearly Tribute to the Troop Show is special. A wonderful showing of humanity, the company has always been keen to give back to the armed forces that put their lives on the line for their country. The crew who head to these shows travel to legitimate war zones, made all the more real when in 2006 a mortar attack took place very close to WWE's base. It was so near, Michael Cole even covered the incident that tragically also took the lives of 14 US soldiers. It must be quite unnerving to head out on one of these trips, which also makes it all the more admirable. Number 10. The Undertaker kills mankind. Imagine you accidentally killed someone at work. You can't, can you? The idea is too far-fetched. Sure, I'd like to kill What Culture's Adam Blampide, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to talk about him behind his back. Or in this case on a video. The world of professional wrestling is a very different beast, mind, and it's fair to say that The Undertaker must have thought he'd ended Mick Foley's life in June of 1998. Throwing his carcass off the 16 feet Hell in a Cell is one thing, but seeing him land and then just laying there? Well, just take a look at Taker's face post-hurl. This was a legitimate reaction too. When Foley asked the dead man how he felt after the spot, he simply replied, "I thought you were dead." Jeez. Number 9. Taking Big Show's moonsault. Who in their right mind signed off on the Big Show doing a moonsault? An idea even more ludicrous than giving Alicia Fox a run with the Divas Championship. Incredibly, this was once upon a time a signature of the Giant as he learned the ropes in WCW's Power Plant developmental system. A badge of honor for Paul White, he prided himself on his size and athletic ability. Thankfully, people saw sense once he made it onto TV and the move was banned. That is until Show asked the one and only Kevin Nash if he could do the spot in their upcoming match. The response? No offense, but I'm not taking that. Not too hard to understand that one, but think of the poor souls who had to lay on the mat and wait for that to hit. Sheesh. Number 8. Kurt Angle and Daniel Puder's mishap. Sometimes it's best just to sit down and accept the situation you're in. Otherwise you upset Kurt Angle. And who really wants to upset Kurt Angle? Former Tough Enough winner Daniel Puder, apparently. Back in 2004, a Tough Enough competition aired on SmackDown, where your Olympic champion called the contestants in the ring for a wrestle, which kinda sounds like a dad talking to his son. With no script in place, you would assume each member of Tough Enough would get schooled by Angle. He's a gold medal winner, for goodness sake. This was all going to plan at first too. Poor Chris Norocki, for example, ended up with a broken rib. When Puder entered the ring, however, he decided he'd put his legit MMA training to good use. Forget lying down just to not rattle the status quo. This was war. or something. Slapping on a Kimura and almost breaking Kurt's arm, panic quickly set in. Angle couldn't tap to a nobody rookie, but he's not going to get very far with his arm in 42 pieces either. Seeing a problematic situation was brewing, a nearby ref quickly countered Pewter's shoulders down, even though they were very much up, sending Angle into a serious rage. Can you imagine how scared he must have been that some kid could have shown him up? And Pewter's well-being must have been all over the place as he shifted to the back. The chewing out will have surely been horrendous. Number 7. Ric Flair goes behind enemy lines. Don't go to North Korea. It's the best travel advice you'll ever receive, even more so back in 1995 when leader Kim Jong-il ruled a terrorist-led country where public dissension was punishable by death. This was the same man, don't forget, who forced the media to tell the nation he had achieved the world golf scoring record, but had no proof. Seriously. And yet despite all this, WCW and New Japan made the trip in the mid-90s, dragging along Ric Flair and Muhammad Ali of all people for good measure. It didn't go well. Their passports were confiscated. They were attached to minders so they couldn't act up. It was a bust of a tour, made worse when Ali shouted, "No wonder we hate these in the middle of a Korean speech. As Flair said in his autobiography, "My hair practically stood up on my head. Oh shit," I whispered. "Don't start talking now." Number 6. Taking the giant fall. Some of the bumps wrestlers take leave you at a loss for words. Sure, the buzz from an arena and the reaction of a crowd must serve as an awesome source of motivation, but just think how scary it must be before the move goes down. We've seen plenty over the years too. Shane McMahon leaping off the Titantron, Edge spearing Mick Foley through a burning table, the aforementioned Mankind Hell in a Cell fall. These men aren't superheroes, they're human beings. They can and will break. Out of all of these though, Jeff Hardy's antics stand out by quite some distance. Either having a death wish or some strange illness that means if he doesn't try and kill himself he'll die anyway, the man has swanton from more precarious positions than is necessary. Just search for Hardy at WrestleMania 2000 or his giant 30-foot dive onto Randy Orton from Raw in 2008. He looks terrified and rightfully so. It is terrifying. Number 5. Owen Hart's big mistake. You know that feeling you get in your stomach as soon as you do something wrong and how you desperately start wishing for time to reverse just so you could make amends? This was Owen Hart entirely in 1997. Dropping Steve Austin directly on his neck and breaking it in the process during that year's SummerSlam was the equivalent of picking up your friend's factory-sealed 1977 Darth Vader figure and tearing open the box. Austin was the future of pro wrestling, and now his career was hanging in the balance. Owen knew this too, and the fallout from the injury would literally cost Vince McMahon millions of dollars, let alone the fear that Hart must have felt from Austin potentially being wheelchair-bound for the rest of his life. On the flip side, Stone Cold must have been scared shitless too. He couldn't feel anything below his neck right after the move hit, a scenario no one should ever have to find themselves in. Number 4. Big Show's face and Mayweather's fists. Poor Big Show. The man may be 7 feet tall and 500 pounds, but he's treated like WWE's oversized whipping boy. This was never more true than at No Way Out in 2008, where the Giant was told that Floyd Mayweather, a professional and tremendous boxer, was going to punch him in the face. Repeatedly. Just because. The start of a feud that would culminate at WrestleMania 24, Big Show did indeed take his battering and more than likely had a broken nose after it was done. His face looked like a bag of broccoli. There's no way Show didn't have the fear that night. Who wouldn't? Number 3. Brock Lesnar beats up John Cena. We've all seen a Brock Lesnar match, and we've all been glad we're not on the receiving end of it. The man legitimately smacks people around, an approach that makes all his matches both believable and entertaining. So imagine how scared you'd be when the man had not only just come back to the WWE, but had spent his time away beating people up for real. That's the situation that faced one John Cena. Booked as an MMA fighter invading the world of sports entertainment, their match at Extreme Rules 2012 was set out to be ultra realistic. This meant in the opening stages that Brock took Cena down for real before unleashing a volley of ground and pound elbows into his head. Into his head! And just look at Brock. Even if he's working those shots, they will hurt like hell. Fair play to Cena though, as he accepted the challenge, even if deep down he had reservations. Who else would have had the balls? Number 2. Vince, Hebner and Michaels in Montreal. Regardless where you stand on the Montreal screwjob, there must have been a lot of anxiety and worry that night in 1997. Not only was Vince McMahon going to con one of the biggest stars in the business, but he had to make sure no one found out about it. There's just no way that all happens in a calm and peaceful way. Such emotion was well founded, with Brett punching Vince in the face before the night was through, raising the tension even higher. Furthermore, Earl Hebner must have felt like a rat trapped in a cage. A close friend of Hart, he had sworn on his kids' lives that he wouldn't double-cross Brett. Knowing this was A, a lie, and B, that he already had a car waiting backstage so he he could be whisked away, Earl must have been a mess. Even Michaels felt the pinch that night, admitting later on how deeply he regrets the whole thing. It's the ultimate conspiracy, and planning it must have left all involved on edge for a very long time, much like you feel after an Alicia Fox match. Number 1. Shawn Michaels and Mike Tyson's fist. Shawn Michaels was not a happy chap before WrestleMania 15. He was upset about dropping the WWF Championship to Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was upset about his back injury. He was upset about the fact he was upset. Throw in his drink and drug problems, and Michaels was not in a good place. During such times, the saying, well, at least it can't get any worse, is usually of some comfort. But unfortunately that didn't ring true for the Heartbreak Kid. When he was at his lowest point, he got told that Mike Tyson, who was legitimately considered the baddest man on the planet, was going to punch him. Really hard. Going down at the end of the Mania match, Michaels got in Tyson's face as planned after the boxer revealed he had sided with the Rattlesnake. Or Cold Stone, as good old Mike used to call him. Not one to withstand such a verbal tirade, Tyson whacked Shawn right on the jaw. The look on Michaels' face during all of this was priceless. Clearly terrified that Iron Mike would knock him out for real, it got even worse when Tyson draped a t-shirt over HBK's face post-slug. That was not in the script, and Michaels wasn't shy about telling people how it made him feel when he got backstage. Pro wrestling can still be quite the scary beast